And welcome to this week's edition of Champagne and JD. And don't adjust your eyes. Andrew Champagne is not here. It is his birthday today. So his birthday wish was to not be on his own show.
Aww.
So we figured we'd grant him that. And we've got a great guest, Jim Miller, but we've got a great guest host that we've brought in, Rachel McLaughlin. You know her from Indiana Grand and from all places on Twitter and social media. How are you doing, Rachel?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here, guys.
And we're going to be talking career, baseball, racing, birds in press boxes, all sorts of stuff with Jim Miller from Hawthorne. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. You know what? I think that's a lousy excuse for Andrew. He's going to miss out on one of the most fun shows, so I'll tell you that. But I think Rachel's going to be part of the reason why it is so much fun, because we mess around back and forth so often on Twitter through so many different things. And that, JD, I hope you know what you're ready for. The fact that we're all sitting here with beverages in our hands the night before Thanksgiving makes it a nice setup, a nice lead-in to what should be a very enjoyable show.
Yeah, so if you can stick around to the end, and I feel like that might be a challenge depending on where this goes, we will have some opinions on the last four races at Hawthorne on Friday, a good pick four sequence, a little bit of everything, some claiming, an Illinois bred allowance event, and a maiden claiming event to end that card. So I think we're going to get off. We're in the middle of our interview, track personnel, announcers series that we started as things kind of have quieted down for the winter. So obviously getting you on here, Jim, was important because you kind of came from a different background to horse racing, obviously spending a lot of time, playing baseball, collegiately, professionally, and just kind of curious for those that don't know, including maybe Rachel, a little bit about your story.
Well, I know now.
Baseball.
Nancy done schooled me, and I got one follow-up after this. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, it's funny because for me, my background started in racing in high school. I actually started in '93 at Arlington Park when I was in high school. And I started as what was called the green coat. So I was the one who showed people around to their seats, drove people up and down the elevators and that. And I became a degenerate relatively quickly because when I was the elevator guy, I'd always go bet at the OTB ahead of time. So I'd have my bets in. A race would come up. I would stop at the floor that had the TVs outside the elevator door and just hold the door button open so I could watch the whole race while people were waiting to get to see what was going on and get to their floors. And they had to wait till the race was over. So if it was a longer route, they waited for a little bit. But halfway through my first year there, I moved into the press box at Arlington, helped out there, and kind of worked at Arlington through the remainder of my high school into college years. So then baseball was one of those things that kind of came out of the blue. For those that know me, I know Rachel knows this, I'm very tall now. I'm also very slender. When I was in high school, I wasn't so tall. So I was 5'8", 155 pounds my junior year of high school. I sprouted 10 inches between my junior and senior year and went from 5'8", 155 to 6'6", 165. So I'm slender now, and you could imagine what I looked like then. So I played baseball through high school, and I was a pretty good baseball player. Went to college my freshman year of college. Coaches looked at me. I got cut. I got cut right off the bat pretty much my freshman year of college. So then after that, I lived the college life. I go to classes in the morning in Kenosha, Wisconsin at Carthage College. I go from there. I get in my car after an 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. class. I drive down to Arlington, work the races at Arlington, and then drive back to school at night. So over the course of the first 3 years of college, I actually played basketball for a couple of years. And then I just mess around with the baseball guys. We'd throw tennis balls around, throw baseballs around, that kind of stuff. And I'd go work out because I had nothing else to do on my time. Senior year, I come back, and the baseball coach says, hey, why don't you give it another go? Fine. Sure enough, I'll give it another go. So the fall season, I'm playing first base. Because first base seems like it's fun. You don't have to run around a whole lot in the field. I get to hit the ball and all that kind of stuff. All right, I'm a horrible hitter. So can't hit the ball. I'm terrible. So coach says, what else can you do? I say, well, I used to be able to pitch a little bit. He says, okay, let's give it a shot pitching. So this is where things get really cool. So at the end of the fall season for baseball, we have a thing called Scout Day. And this is where different big league organizations come to colleges and get to see the players that they have. So our college lines up the pitchers for the way they think the scouts would want to see them. So we had 14 pitchers for the scouts to see. They line them up from 1 to 14. All right. I'm number 14 because the coaches haven't seen me pitch. So I am the last guy to go. So I go out there. We're waiting all through this whole thing. The coaches are seeing a few kids. We had a good team. They're seeing some kids go back and forth who are doing well. I go out there to pitch. It was the coolest thing ever. I throw 4 pitches and get 3 outs. Okay? So it was 1 pitch, ground out. Another pitch, pop out. Another pitch, I throw a ball, then a pitch for a ground out. My inning's over. All right? So in 4 pitches, I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. I got 4 guys out. All right? No clue what's going on. I'm walking off the field. One of the scouts calls my college coach over and talks to him for a little bit. College coach comes over to the dugout to me and says, hey, you got to go back out there. And I'm like, why do I have to go back out there? And he's like, just go back out to the mound and our pitching coach will come talk to you and I got to go talk to the scouts. Fine, cool. I'll go back out to the mound. So I go back out to the mound and I asked the pitching coach, I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, just grab the ball and throw it as hard as you can. Fair enough. So grab the ball, 5, 6, 7, 8 fastballs. All right, everything. Boom, 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 boom. 91, 92 miles per hour on the gun. All right, I have no idea. I haven't thrown a fastball since freshman year. So then the coach goes, well, do you throw anything else? I said, well, I used to mess around with a tennis ball throwing a split finger fastball. I have real long, skinny fingers where you take the ball, basically cut it in half, grip it, and you just throw it as hard as you can. So I'm like, I'll throw the splitter. So I throw the splitter, it goes boom, and dies down. Then another boom, dies down.
Ah!
All of a sudden, the scouts are flipping out. Okay, so I'm filling out information for the scouts and that. The coaches, it's like they found the greatest little prize in the world that they had no
diamond in the rough.
Yeah, they thought it was the coolest thing. So then, all of a sudden, now they focus on actually teaching me how to pitch. And I go through the season. I have an incredible season. I go undefeated during the entire year. We go to the College World Series. We finish 3rd in the nation. I go like 8-1 or 10-1 on the season, have an ERA under 2 and get All-American status. So through this whole time, the scouts are saying that have been touching me, okay, you may go as an undrafted free agent. And then it's, you may go in the 40th round. You may go in the 35th round. By the time the season got done, they said you may be in the top 30 rounds. Whatever, I don't care. All right, at this time, it's 1997. I have a job lined up after college to go work at Rockingham Park in New Hampshire. Okay, so that's where I'm going at the time. I'm set. I'm fine. If baseball works out, that's fine. So then after we get done with the College World Series, I go to work out for the Cubs, the Reds, and the Brewers. So when the Cubs and Reds were like scrimmage games and everything went fine, the Brewers, I go to what was County Stadium now. So before Miller Park, the old County Stadium, it's me, one other kid, and all of their scouts there, and that is it in the ballpark. And they basically say, play catch and throw a bullpen for us. Play catch, throw a bullpen for them, and figure, okay, I'm done, whatever. So the Major League Baseball draft is a 2-day draft. So day 1 is rounds 1 to 25. Day 2 is rounds 26 to 50. So according to the scouts in that, hey, you may get to go sometime in the 2nd round if you're lucky enough. That's fine. Good enough for me. First round of the draft is going on. I am asleep on the floor of my house, just taking a nap. Phone rings. Hey, Jim. It's a guy by the name of Harvey Keene, a scout for the Brewers. Harvey, how you doing there? Doing good. Hey, we just drafted you in the 11th round of the 97 draft.
Whoa!
I go, you got to be kidding me.
That's so awesome.
He goes, no. He goes, we're prepared to offer you a signing bonus. Once we get through the draft, we'll call you back. And I said, okay. So hang up the phone, immediately flipping out. So, and I'm more flipping out because now I got to tell the folks at Rockingham Park that I'm not going to work for them, but I'm going to play professional baseball. So, ended up, I get drafted in the 11th round in '97. Played for 4 years in the minors. Awesome experience. I can say I won 20 games professionally as a pitcher, which was very cool. During that time, I started my work at Hawthorne in the fall. And once I got done playing baseball, went over to Hawthorne. So I can say I've never really had to work a day in my life, because to me, baseball is really not work. Getting paid to go to the races really isn't work either. So kind of a cool experience thus far. But yeah, a little bit of a baseball career there that kind of came out of the blue.
I think I had heard a couple things about that, but I didn't know that it was like that amazing at all until you said that. And then I asked Nancy and she told me about it. And so I have a whole list here on my phone.
Yes.
The one that I'm most interested in, and if you guys don't know, Nancy and Jim have been friends for 30 some years. They're besties. And Nancy is obviously the paddock analyst at Indiana Grand and the face of Oaklawn as well. But this sounds dirty. This sounds dirty, but apparently it's not, is what she says. She told me to ask you about your honer.
Oh, my
Not
honer.
Homer, your honer.
My honer. All right, so yes, I love Nancy to death, and this is a good start. The honer is probably the most tame of everything.
Really?
But Nancy's parents.
I mean, it sounds like B owner. I'm just gonna say it. So I thought when she said that, I go, "Are you sure you want me to ask this on a podcast?" She was like, "It's G-rated, I swear."
Honer, honer. So it's. I go to visit Nancy usually once a year down at Oaklawn during the meet.
Yeah, and thanks a lot for coming the one time I had to officiate a wedding, Jim. I'm never going to forgive you for that.
We were all set for that, and then you had to go run off and do your thing, but that's fine. But so Nancy's parents, Rich and Jane, are awesome. And Mama Jane, we used to talk about just the different musical instruments. The honer is a harmonica, all right? So we talked about the honer, and the first time she brought it up, my mind went the same way Rachel's did when she saw that terminology. And I thought, this is the dirtiest, most weird, freakish thing that Jane Urie is bringing up, which is the honer. And Nancy is losing her mind about it. So this was kind of a running joke for the first year that I was there. The next year we go out to breakfast. I am delivered a honer from Jane Urie.
No.
Well, I still am in possession of the honer, and I've never learned to play it. I will bust it out and mess around with it every once in a while. But there's times we'll be sitting at breakfast, JD, out there, and in Hot Springs, Arkansas, everything's kind of like a little diner type of thing. So you're sitting at breakfast, and it's Nancy and Jane Urie. Nancy's got the most infectious laugh in the world, and she will throw her head back and just die laughing. Jane will ask me out of the blue, with everybody sitting there, "Hey, Jimmy, how's your honer?" And the way she says it, she's so loud, you see reactions from 3, 4, 5 different tables around because they're worried. They want to know the answer for what I'm going to say, how my honer is. So that's a great first question to kick things off there with, Rach.
Yeah,
right,
if you're working on your stand-up career, Jim, you just describe it as a very specific type of mouth organ. And that might, move things along a little more. All right, Rachel. I'm enjoying this list from Nancy so far. Do you have another follow-up from that list, or?
Oh, I have a lot. I think I have some serious ones for later, but I think my favorite other one was his career as a camel jockey.
Yes.
Which is this a joke? Like, is she? I don't know. You know, Nancy is like, sometimes I don't know if she's being serious. Like, I mean, you're a camel jockey for real.
I'm undefeated. I am
one for one.
Jockey. All right, so we have camel and ostrich races all the time at Hawthorne. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you've seen these things. The different racetracks do it. So I'm like, hell yeah. I said, I wanted to ride an ostrich, and they said you couldn't do it because you're too tall. Your feet are going to drag on the ground. So you can't ride the ostrich, but you can ride the camel. Cool enough. So we would do different media stuff with just the different media personalities, like in the mornings, to promote camel and ostrich racing. So that's how I got started. It was always, we're going to load a couple camels in the gate, and you're just going to ride around on their back, do that kind of thing, and you're going to interview so-and-so and talk to them about the camel races. I can sit there and ride a camel and go around in circles all day. The races come up. All right. We always would like to line up the different jocks in that to ride the camels. Well, we could get 3 brave jocks to ride the camels, but the camels always came after the ostriches. So you'd normally have an ostrich that would dump a rider or 2 or 3 or all of them. And then you'd get jocks that would back out. So the first year of the camel races, we had 3 jocks, 1 open camel. So I jumped on the camel and rode the camel. Now I'm super competitive. So because of that, I am sitting there, I get on the camel's back, and when you get up, you don't realize just how high you are on a camel in a starting gate. I mean, you see horses walking the gates. All right. I'm up on a camel. I am basically squeezing my legs around the damn thing's hump just to try to balance myself, because you just got this big metal thing on there. There's no saddle or anything like that. And you have the 2.
Oh, this is the best.
All right. So I'm holding on to the metal thing, and I got the 2 lines, and I got my helmet. I'm in the gate, and I look up. The top of the gate is maybe that far from my head because I'm a giant. All right. So I'm in there. We go like that. I'm holding here. I'm holding the lines, but I have the lines real loose. The gate springs the first camel race, and the damn camel stumbles out of the gate.
Oh.
The first jump, I am looking down at the gate thinking I am tumbling over the top of this camel and I'm going to die. All right. So I do everything I can to grab on to the front of the metal portion of the camel. Okay. I let go of the lines. Okay. Well, I let go of the lines. That means this camel is going bam. So he takes off and he goes flying down the lane. All the other jocks are trying to steer their camel on that. And mine just runs like gangbusters through the wire and I win. So then the next year, I have to go out there, and I have to defend my title. So,
oh yeah, now you have to win.
The second year, 3rd year, I defend my title and win the 3rd year. Now the 4th year comes up, and we have the camels again. So there's 4 camels, and the guy that runs it's the same guy, this crazy cowboy guy that runs the camel.
Eric told me about him,
and he's a little bit, but that's okay. So he said, all right, Jim, he said, you got to ride camel number 4. And I'm like, all right, well, why is that? He goes, you're experienced on the camels. He says, this is a camel we're trying to teach. And I'm like, oh, shit. So he's like, we're trying to teach this camel. He says, just so you know, he said, this camel always goes to the right. And he said, but once he gets to the right, and once he gets to that outside wall, then he'll straighten out and go. And I'm like, okay. So we're at about the 8th pole, maybe the 16th pole. It's not that far. It's about 16th of a mile. So sure shit, I'm on there. I'm ready to go. All right. Gate spring. Camel takes an immediate right into the side of the gate. Bash my hand against the side of the gate. From about here on my finger to here on my finger, I just tear wide open. Then goes to the outside fence, and then he evens out, and as we're running, you've seen these things. People are standing in the winner's circle, watching or standing, whatever. There are people scattering all over the place to get out of the way of the damn camel. But the thing goes by, goes through, still wins the race.
You still won?
It still wins. So I'm doing this interview. I have like a paper towel wrapped around my bloody finger. I go into first aid, and the paramedics say, okay, we're gonna bandage you up to get through races. You got to go to the emergency room after races. Go to the emergency room after races. The doctor, he says, oh yeah, that's pretty good. He says, you want to check it out? And I say, sure. So he pulls the flaps of skin away. He goes, check that out. That's your bone. I'm like, oh my God. And he goes, you got so lucky. He said, you see this little thing right here? He goes, that's your tendon. He goes, if you had clipped that, he said, you would have been out for months doing rehab, whatever. So then he asked how I got it, how it happened. I explained it to him. He didn't believe a word that came out of my mouth, but I went and got stitched up and was back at the work the next day.
So obviously, Jim, with that, you've proven that you're willing to do anything for Hawthorne, and obviously, great race caller there in Peter Galassi. But you've called a lot of races at the race course. I want to hear about the first time you called a race and how prepared you were and how it went, because that's always fascinating to me.
I've called a few hundred races now, and it's interesting because the first races that I called had to be back probably 8-9 years ago. And we were trying to ease into things. Peter had his daughter was coming up with a wedding. So there was a day that he knew he was going to miss for the wedding. So he told me that we want to prepare you. So kind of traded off. I'd do a race with a short field. He'd go and do the paddock stuff. So 5-6 horse fields, not a big deal at all. The first race he has me call is a 4-horse field, but it's a stakes race. So I'm sitting there, call the race. The field scatters about. I go through, I make the call. I mean, I was very monotone for the race call. Fortunately enough, I had a lot of experience because I've called thousands of charts for Equibase and that in the past. So at least I knew to get the margins and get the names and that kind of stuff. The race gets done, and you'll love this. I get a call in the announcer's booth. And answer, I'm like, yeah, hello, announcer. I'm figuring it's the stewards, the placing judges, something like that. Hello, Jim. Dave Johnson, how are you? Looking at the phone. All right, I've done some stuff with Dave and that on like Saturday mornings when they had their show on Sirius. Well, just wanted to tell you did a great job. I'm like, really, Dave? He's like, yeah, oh yeah, you did a great job. Like, super proud of you. Nice work. All of a sudden, I think I am the greatest announcer ever. Hang up the phone. I'm like, this is awesome. Second race call, 5-horse field. I forget 2 of the names the whole way around, mess them up from the race before, and then it was just an absolute disaster for that call. But after that, you know what? It's been fun. The one thing that I've learned from calling races is when the gate springs, you better start talking. You got no option. So you just got to open your mouth. You got to call the race. I don't care if you pick up the top 2 horses or if you're able to get through the whole field, kind of the way that I was taught. In a sprint race, you get through the whole field out of the gate. You get through the whole field from front to back again, and then you focus on what's going on at the top. A route race, you get through the field 3 times from front to back. But since then, yeah, hundreds of race calls. I get to call all the harness races at the Illinois State Fair, which is an absolute blast because I'm staying in the middle of the stands, and I usually have a bear and some cheese curds and an elephant ear or whatever, and just going off. But yeah, it's fun. That if I had a chance, if there was one job I could do in racing, and that would just be my job, track announcer would be it.
Yeah, it's always fascinating because we've had a couple track announcers on the past couple of weeks. I mean, Peter Barry went to an academy for it in Australia, which is a unique experience that only happens in Australia. And obviously, we have a lot of Australian racing talk normally on this podcast. I'm going to save both of you guys from that this week. And then obviously Don Stevens last week. I mean, he got to sit by Jim Byers at Remington for a long time, and that kind of prepared him. So always interesting to hear, how the announcers get to start, because obviously that's the first voice you hear when you walk into a racetrack as a patron for the first time. And it's a really cool position in racing. So, speaking of being able to, call races and do your studio segments at Hawthorne, obviously a lot of big changes happening at Hawthorne with the addition of the casino and the tear down of certain areas and the construction of others. And it's led to some, I'm sure, fun times here at the start of the meet.
Yeah, fun times, interesting times, a little bit of craziness, I'll tell you. Myself and Peter Galassi are the only 2 employees, I think, at Hawthorne that have not been relocated due to construction. And it's only because we basically need to be on the finish line. So for those that don't know, we're building a casino, sportsbook, new racing entity, and we're doing it basically within the walls of what Hawthorne once was. But nobody is going to recognize the building when all's said and done. So about a third of the building is going to get lapped off to become a new paddock and new jocks room, and the rest is going to be completely renovated. But where we're located, we're up on the 5th and 6th floor of the building. Below us right now, what's going on is just mass demolition. So we're sitting there, and it feels like on a Friday morning, it is just a constant earthquake. Buildings shaking, things are getting knocked down. You have we have big, massive ramps that people used to walk up. Those are gone now. All the windows are getting knocked out. I'll post stuff on Instagram. I looked out of my window one day. There was literally a crane right below where I was sitting, just knocking a section of seating out right below me. So you have a lot going on now, and it's exciting, but it's a very aggressive time frame. They want this all done from start to finish in a year. So there's a lot to get done. But as you saw in my recent thing, when you talk about the bird in the press box, we have a lot of open holes in the walls at Hawthorne. And because of that, a lot of creatures come in. And yeah, last Saturday, right as I'm walking into our TV studio, a bird goes busting right over my head, right through the press box and over to one of the windows. And we had to help it out. But the wildlife there is definitely starting to grow. It's going to become a bird sanctuary for a couple months, I'm sure.
Well, you'll have a different type of wildlife as well with the casino coming on board. And if memory serves me correctly, Rachel, on social media last year, I think I remember you practically going through dealer school at Indiana Grand. Does that ring a bell a little bit?
Yeah, that's funny that of all things. And still is up on the 3rd floor in the racing office, which is just a blast to be sitting there. As poor Tammy Knox, who's the marketing manager, they built a wall. They took out all of our marketing bullpens and added in the dealer school, which is fine. It was a lot of extra space that could have been condensed, and they did. But poor Tammy, her desk is here, her office is here, and it is closed off. Right on the other side of the wall, ding, 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 music. They try to recreate the whole thing. Yeah, like they're screaming, and I'm on the other side of the hall, and I'm just like, I can't with this right now. And thank goodness the construction part happened during the winter, because I could have done it. I heard that Jim has his own hard hat, so I mean he's in the real construction.
We're required now. We're in a spot where we are required to wear a hard hat and a vest just to get up to the press box. There's a wall you can't go past, and there's stuff that's been dropping. There's massive cement blocks you got to watch out for. We have a huge covering over the walkway out of the paddock, because we have the paddock like in an underneath, almost like a garage type area, that just to block from any falling objects. So we do have to wear a hard hat and a vest. All right, hey JD, am I allowed to ask Rachel a question?
Oh, of course. We're breaking the 3rd wall, the 4th wall, any walls. We're drinking beer. Go for it. And
you know what? All right, and it's not even a question, but it's kind of an awesome story. So, as you know, I'm pretty sarcastic, especially on Twitter. All right. Rachel has awesome coworkers, and she's very good about posting about her awesome coworkers and posting about all the fun they have and that kind of stuff. All right. There's a picture, and I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before, but it's a picture of Nancy in the paddock, and she's given like this, almost like this smoldering type of look. And Rachel tweets out the picture. Oh my God!
Oh Nancy, God! You're gonna tell this story.
Nancy is looking smoking hot today. All right.
So she did. She had on that black shirt, and her hair was all done, and she looked beautiful.
She did. She looked beautiful on that. All right. But here's the coolest thing of it, JD. So Rachel takes the picture, and she takes the picture of the Indiana Grand signal. Okay. So you have Nancy right here in the center of your picture, and the scroll underneath is the changes that they have going on at Indiana Grand. Okay. Sure as shit, right below Nancy's picture is the name of a scratched horse that says she's a guy. Right under the picture of her tweeting that Nancy was smoking hot.
Oh!
I had to take that picture. I had to take that.
I had no idea. I had no clue until you posted it.
I reposted it. I said, you got to check out the name. I said, oh my God, she is far from a guy. But that is my save. Like, I'll save pictures in my phone with Nancy's picture. It is that picture from Indiana Grand that is saved in my phone of the shot of She's a Guy with Rachel calling her smoking hot.
That was classic. Like literally that was classic that you caught that and we didn't. And then Nancy, she's like me, like you can't embarrass her like at all. Like we have no shame. I think that's why Nancy and I get along. We're not like, oh, I can't believe you said that, you know. Like we have no shame at all. She was like, that is amazing. She thought it was hilarious. And I kind of felt bad because I was just taking a picture of how cute she looked on the feed, and right under her she's like, she's a guy. Yeah. So what was your question? That wasn't a question. You just wanted to tell an embarrassing story about me, bro.
It was a great story. Yeah. No, it was more story. Although I'll tell you, I think it might have been some of the pictures post Indiana Derby that you guys had this year. You got a couple drinks after, and the fun they have is amazing. That's one of the things that I miss, because at Hawthorne, I am pretty much a one-man show now.
Yeah.
They get to work together. They have a blast, and it's hilarious. Always entertaining.
Yeah, I'm so lucky to have Nancy. She honestly, you know, it's nice to have somebody where, like when Nancy, you know, her dad, you know, was sick and stuff, I covered for her, obviously. And it's nice to split it. I don't know how you do it, because, I mean, there's times, because I do the production and a bunch of other stuff, which doesn't matter, but it's so nice. Nancy's like my rock. Like, I'm like, man, please. Oh my gosh. The other day, my computer just totally, they replaced that. I had nothing to do. I text her like probably 20 minutes before the show. I was like, Nancy, can you just do the show? And she was like, I got you, girl. Like, I just love that woman. She's awesome. And after Derby, her and I literally do the whole production. She helps me with the plan. And then at the end, we take that whole Derby suite. We get drinks. She brings Prosecco. We throw our shoes off and we sit there and we drink some drinks. It's our thing. And
they post about it too, JD. So there's no shame with these two. They're having a great time. They do an awesome job. But yeah, I guess it wasn't as much a question, Rachel, although it was pretty awesome, that tweet of yours.
So I'll ask Rachel a question. So as memory serves, I think based on the beginning of the COVID restrictions, you and Nancy were in different places in doing the show, and then eventually you guys got to return together and kind of talk about some of the hardship of that, and then how good it felt to have your right hand right next to you again.
Oh man, that was horrible. Nancy and I love when I would be in the paddock with Nancy all the time if I could, but because my office is on the 3rd floor and Nancy's out in the paddock, and I have so much, you know, marketing and emails and schedules and stuff to send, it's just too much for me to go all the way down and back. And man, that sucked, man, because we have so much fun in the paddock together. We have so much fun. And when Eric told us that we could stand on either side of the desk, like 6 feet apart, we were so stoked. And it is, honestly, we probably could have done it earlier because we were outside and we were far enough apart, but we were being a little bit more careful. But the shot also, because as I said to you before, I've become, even more than I was already, a huge like production geek. I like the shots. I don't like for it to be super wide. I want it to look nice and clean and everything. So I kind of was against it because it's a wider shot. But yeah, that has been a huge thing. And anytime we're on TV. People are taking pictures of us. People like to post pictures. If you're not doing exactly the right thing, everybody's always on you, and that's a whole drama and stuff. But you know, there's none of the jockeys that I haven't actually been around personally, and I haven't even been in the jocks room. So it's just been a really challenge this whole year. As Nancy and I always say, it's unprecedented. The unprecedented year. It's stuff we've never had to worry about or think about or anything, and it's been Nancy and I, not fans of rules. Wasn't cool. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, I want to transition to some press box stories, and obviously we talked about the birds at Hawthorne, and that was kind of what made me think of this. And I'll say a couple of weeks ago, I told a great story with Peter Barry that you'll enjoy, Jim, and I'll clip it out for you about the time that I was broadcasting a college baseball game and got hit in the chest by a foul ball and kept going. Which caused great amusement to everybody in the press box, who basically could not believe I kept going and found it hilarious. But I'll tell another baseball story because it's better than any of my horse racing press box stories. So one of my jobs in college baseball, I worked at Sacramento State, and obviously it's a Division I school, but you know, mid-major, but the facility, they added lights recently, but they still don't have a press box or concessions or permanent restrooms or any of those things. So really the creature comfort, you do everything for the game operations under a tent. And I'm kind of a one-man band some of the time where I'm doing music, or I have somebody helping with music, doing the scoreboard, doing PA, scoring the game, doing radio, all those sort of things that make sense in baseball and don't make sense in any other sport, that somebody can handle all of those tasks. So we're playing BYU, and we're playing just like the most nondescript music between innings, and it's play that funky music, white boy. And a BYU parent, because we don't have a press box or anything, comes up to me and says, "I cannot believe you played that song. Play that fucking music, white boy." I'm like, "We didn't, ma'am." So that's just.
It's BYU.
She thought the word funky was the word fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's just dumb. What'd you tell her? What'd you say? What'd you say?
I said it's one of the most popular songs of all time. I'm amazed that you have not heard it.
Oh, nice.
That's about all you can do. I'm a nice guy.
You put it on repeat and you play it every inning.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm talking about right there.
That would have been what you counter with.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
All right, so Rachel, you talk about baseball broadcasting. I'll give you a quick baseball press box story. It's my second season, and it's almost close to home with BYU because I'm playing baseball in Ogden, Utah. So in Utah, we were in a league called the Pioneer League. You have a bunch of teams: Idaho Falls, Great Falls, Montana, all that kind of stuff. There's 2 teams in Canada, Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. So we're driving up to go to Canada to play. We get to the border. Our radio guy finds out that he doesn't have his passport. He's got to get off the bus at the border. So he gets off the bus. We get up to Medicine Hat in Canada, and they realize they have nobody to do play-by-play of baseball. Well, I'm a starting pitcher, so I didn't have to start any of the games there, and they knew that I worked in racing and broadcasting. So I said, "Jim, you're now going to be our broadcaster for the baseball games while we're in Medicine Hat." So I'm sitting there broadcasting baseball games, interviewing other pitchers that had days off. We had a guy that just did a constant Harry Carey impression the whole time, and he had like 4 lines that he repeated the entire line, but got to do baseball broadcasting. That's the only time I've ever done baseball, and you don't realize how hard it is to fill 3 hours of time when you have so much time in between pitches. But it is. It was a blast to do it, but the amount of stuff that you have to try to fill with is insane. And especially when you've never done it before, to keep a scorebook even. But it was a lot of fun. So I pitched one game that entire trip in Canada between 7 days, just the way it worked. That was the only game they had no broadcast. My parents were pissed. They didn't get to know how I did pitching because they had nobody to broadcast it. But yeah, the rest of it was awesome. So
I'm going to give you an unpopular opinion. Don't get me wrong, I love baseball. I mean, baseball, men in baseball pants. I mean, it's all great.
That's what she loves, JD. Men in baseball pants. Yeah,
men in baseball pants is just. But I do love baseball, but I can't watch it on TV. I mean, I can watch the Masters. Maybe it's because I play golf. I did play softball when I was little, but I can't watch it, and that's why when you just said that about how, you've got 3 hours to fill. I mean, that's a lot. Like, I mean, live, it's so much more fun because you got the stuff in between the innings and everything. I can't watch it on TV. I really can't. I've never been able to get into it, and I love every sport. I love football. I love golf. I love everything. But baseball, I just can't watch it unless I'm there.
I'll do 2 to 3 other things over the course of a game. So
yeah, you can watch.
So you're it's not that much of an unpopular opinion by any means.
All right. Well, I think the main event that people might have come here for is hearing some opinions that they're going to spend a lot of Thanksgiving away from their family handicapping, at least they hope to be. And we've got a good card lined up on Friday at Hawthorne. And Jim, obviously, you guys have kind of a unique scenario in that it always seems like you're running between the harness season and the thoroughbred season. So we're in the middle of basically, I guess, for those that don't know, kind of give a quick rundown of how COVID kind of affected your guys' seasons and how it kind of pushed things around?
Yeah, we had actually started our harness season, and we were about a month into it when COVID hit and shut us down the second week of March. And we had to put guidelines together for the Illinois Department of Public Health for a return to safe racing. And as I know Rachel knows for sure, I do about 30 jobs at the racetrack. One of the jobs I had to do was write out the guidelines from start to finish on everything that we're going to do for how we're safely going to return to racing. So from the face mask to how we're going to lay out the paddock to what we're going to do on the backside, what every staff member is going to do and all that. So I was able to lay that out, and we actually got back to racing probably a month before businesses and that got back open in Illinois. So we were off for about 2.5 months, got back to racing in mid-June, and then raced harness through the end of September. And then we're one of only 2 tracks in North America, Century Miles, the other one, that does a track conversion between a thoroughbred racetrack and a harness track. So we have a limestone base for the harness track. That meet gets done within 72 hours. We are putting tons upon tons upon tons of dirt on the racetrack, leveling it out, getting it all set, and starting training within a week of the end of the harness meet. And then the thoroughbred meet started the first week of October, and we're going through the end of the year. And I'll tell you, it's one of the things for the fall thoroughbred meet that works so well for Hawthorne is we get tracks like Indiana Grand, who has a great meet and has a lot of race horses, and you get horsemen who look for a destination before they may head south to Oaklawn or somewhere else for the winter. So the Indiana Grand horsemen come to us. Canterbury Park ends, those horsemen come to us. Prairie Meadows ends, those horsemen come to us. And then we get Arlington Park and Fairmont in Illinois, and all those horses converge on us. So this has been a year where you have all these horses converging on Hawthorne, and then on top of it, people now know that, okay, a casino is just around the corner. And I'm sure Rachel saw the impact at Indiana Grand when you went from just racing to now racing with a casino because your purse money is so much more. We now have horsemen who want to come in and get their foot in the door now so they have stalls when the casino comes. So, great example, Carl Broberg. Carl has never raced at Hawthorne before. And Carl is on Twitter. I got to know him through Twitter. He's a gambler. He's a horseman. He loves racing. He loves to run his horses. And we just got to drumming up a conversation. And he said, hey, I'm looking for a place for some horses. What do you think? And I said, we will make room for you. Whatever you want for stalls, we'll make room for you. And he's come in and he runs a lot of horses and has been very successful. But we've got him running horses there. Tony Rengsdorf has come down from Canterbury and run horses. Like I mentioned, you're getting people that are now coming over from Indiana Grand who had very successful meets there. And when they all converge, you see a lot of larger fields. You see a great mix of races. I mean, we go from almost the lowest of low maiden claimers up to we had an optional 50 the other day that had 8 horses and then 6 were stakes winners. So you get a nice mix of horses. It makes for a very tough meet handicapping wise. But the one thing I talk about, and we can, if you want to, at the end, we can mention my little poll that I like to have fun with. But when we talk about racing analysts, here's the one thing. People always ask me when the Derby comes up, oh my God, Jim, who do you love in the Derby? Or who do you love at Santa Anita? Who do you love at Indiana Grand? I'm like, I don't know. I focus on Hawthorne. That is.
Thank you. Thank you.
I focus on, that's the track I know. I can take an educated guess maybe from what I see on paper at Indiana Grand, at Oaklawn Park, and the Kentucky Derby. I know just as much as everybody else pretty much for those tracks because I don't follow them.
That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah, and you should. But Hawthorne is my home track. That is the track that I'm supposed to know. I can tell you the amount of races I watched from Arlington Park this year are less than 2 hands worth of races because I don't care. I watch Hawthorne. I focus on Hawthorne. That's
well, you're consumed with everything that you have to do. People think that we just get paid to sit here and all we do is read the program of everywhere. They don't realize that people like us, we have 14 other jobs. You have way more jobs than I even knew you had if you're writing regulations. But wow, you know, and then they want us to sit around and watch other tracks and put tickets together. I'm like, come on, man, come on. I can barely get the stuff that I have to do for Indiana Grand done.
Right. It's an educated guess, JD. Here, and I'll tell you one thing, and it's a great tip, and I love when analysts do this. Rachel has done it before. Nancy has done it. I've heard from like Christina Blacker on TVG, Matt Carruthers, Scotty Hazelton, and that. I love when I'll get a call or a text from somebody who is covering a track and says, "Hey, Jim, this horse has been racing at Hawthorne and they're racing at our track. What can you tell me about the racehorse?" And I'd much rather somebody call and ask me for some input about the horse to say, here's what you know, here's some input, some background on the horse, instead of them to just take an absolute blind guess on that. And I love that analysts will do that and feel comfortable doing that. I wish more would do it, but it's something, and a great example for it. There was a horse by the name of Slick Silver that was running at Hawthorne, broke its maiden for 12.5, worked its way up the ranks. Christina called me about this horse. He's running in a stake at Oakland. She's like, "I know nothing about the horse. Can you give me some input on the trainer? Can you tell me about the horse a little bit?" And I gave her some input. The horse ran like 5th in the stake, ran a great race in that. But I love that preparation aspect where you can rely on somebody who knows that track. If there was a horse at Indiana Grand that I wanted to know about, I'm going to get a hold of Rachel, or I'm going to get a hold of Nancy and say, "Hey, tell me what you can about this horse or this horseman, because I don't know the tendencies and I don't want to lead my people the wrong way at Hawthorne by giving them information that I just don't know."
Yeah, and I think that's awesome to mention, Jim. And I think what we can bring, myself and Rachel, obviously not people follow Hawthorne necessarily on a day-to-day basis. We also might see something. I have something in the 7th race where I went way deep in life and came up with something that may help people just looking at it from an opposite opinion. But obviously here as the expert, and we're just giving our best thoughts around it. So we're gonna kick off the sequence with race number 6, $4,000 claimers, 3-year-olds and up, non-winners of 2 in the year 2020, going 5.5 furlongs on the dirt. So this entire sequence is dirt sprints. We've got one at 5.5 here, and then the final 3 races are at 6 furlongs. We have a field of 12, favorite being in the 8-hole Iowa Native for Carl Broberg, as you mentioned, Jim, coming in with a string of runners at Hawthorne for the first time with Constantino Roman up, and we'll look at the final 2 horses in the field there. But we're obviously going to construct some pick 4s. Obviously, there's a couple days in advance, so we don't know necessarily track conditions, scratches, so on and so forth. Just giving all of those wonderful
you're going to be fast this weekend, so don't worry about that.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with this pick 4, and I'm going to go ahead and kick things off just because I see this very simply. I think really you have to look at the 7 Mind Trap and look at this horse and say, this horse is either going to win or we're going to have to go much, much deeper in this race. So you look at the weird kind of 2019 for this horse. So this horse was claimed for 12.5 after a win at Arlington Park, then claimed for 8,500 after a win at Hawthorne, and then because it got bumped up to optional claiming in an allowance condition, actually got claimed for 32.5. So the connections that claimed it for 32.5 are dropping this horse all the way down to the $4,000 level, but has run well. You look at way back in this horse's career, obviously the 5-year-old gelding. You look at the first 4 races of the career, obviously broke the maiden in Arlington, but then faced World of Trouble at Tampa Bay and faced Matoli at Oakland. I mean, these are 2 names that jump off the page. So really for me, this race was pretty simple. I think this is one of those scenarios where this horse, if it's right and runs back to old numbers, might win this race by the 16th pole or is going to finish last. I really have no opinion either way other than it's either first or last. And I'm going to take my chances singling the 7 here to start what is a very tough sequence. Well, and Jim, I'm gonna let you go next here, and you're going 3 deep in this leg.
Well, and here's what I want to tell you too about Mind Trap, and here's where it's good for me knowing the connections. Bill Sturtz is the owner. Scott Becker is the trainer. For those that don't know Bill Sturtz, Bill is the owner of Fairmount Park. Bill is the owner of Ralston Purina. He's a guy that is a billionaire. He's got a lot of money. So for him to run a racehorse who's dropping in class isn't necessarily because there's something wrong with the horse. There's an issue, there's a health issue or anything. He wants to win. He's going to run the horse where the horse can win. So when you see these connections drop a horse, you don't get as scared as when you see some other connections drop a horse because they're in it only for racing. So Mind Trap, that is a horse you do have to use. I do have that horse on the ticket. Iowa Native is another horse that I have on the ticket. This is the one from the barn of trainer Carl Broberg. Here's the one thing that's been a little tough for Broberg. He had Francisco Arrieta riding for him early in the meet. Francisco was heads and tails above everybody in that room with just how well he was riding. He was very confident at the time, riding very well. He got injured 3 weeks ago, and just it was a weird training accident. A horse kind of got tangled up with another horse. Both horses are fine, but he got injured in that, and he was knocked out for a few weeks. Now he's going down to Fairgrounds. He's been gone for 3 weeks. He still holds an 8-win margin in the jock standings right now atop the standings. Dang. So Broberg's been kind of searching for that rider to kind of pick up his horses. He's tried Jose Lopez a little bit. He's got Constantino Roman aboard on this horse. This is a horse that ran pretty well in that last out. The horse that lost to wasn't great by any means. You have to use it in the mix because the horse, I just think, pace-wise, if the other horse from Becker's barn, Mind Trap, doesn't get out there, maybe a horse like Iowa Native can be a factor. Dino's the horse that I use. Dino, the 2 horses, the 3rd horse that I use in here. Quincy Hamilton rides this horse. 2 races at Hawthorne, really good races. And you're coming out of these condition 10s at Churchill, which are clearly much tougher than what you're going to see for the last 2 races at Hawthorne. The horse ran from off the pace late in the lane in each of those 2. And here's the one quirky thing about Hawthorne, again, just knowing this racetrack in the winter, we have a very long stretch. We have one of those thick Fontana rails for the rail that goes around the racetrack. What the Fontana rail does is it casts a shadow on the inside of the track when it gets cold out. So early in the day when it's sunny out, especially when we go back to our 12:55 post in December, it is all inside speed when the sun is up because that part of the track doesn't thaw nearly to the track. When the sun goes down, the track evens out from the inside out. So what you see is riders are all winging it, trying to get down to the inside the first 3-4 races because the inside's so good. And then you see races 5, 6, and 7 as the track is even out. Guys are winging it still for the lead, and all of a sudden pace starts backing up. Horses start making wider moves and can close ground late. So that's why I use Dino in the mix as well. So 3 deep for me, only for the fact of the timing of the race, when it's going to be during the day. And again, you still have some unknowns because of the drop with Mind Trap, but I'm not scared off by any means with the horse either.
Yeah, I feel like, my alma mater, Drake and Des Moines, using Iowa Native is very, very difficult for me. But I singled there, and yes, they did win today. They beat K-State. They beat my dad's alma mater, so that was fun.
I know, Rachel, I'm sure you don't care about college basketball, but we got to talk about this, Rach, because sports betting just recently became legal in the state of Illinois. I bet the over on the Drake K-State game, and it went over. So it was a good day for me preparing for all my NFL bets for Thanksgiving Day. So I just had to toss that.
And you're gonna have to get used to calling Fairmount Park something different very soon, based on that sports betting.
Was it going to be like FanDuel Downs or something like that?
Yeah, it's like FanDuel, Sportsbook, and Racing.
Racing, yeah,
is what they're going.
Is that for real?
Yeah, that's for real. Yeah.
Wow.
We're just going Hawthorne Casino and Racetrack. So.
Yeah. So obviously, what's funny here is I'm a big time form guy. And so Indiana Grand still says Indiana Downs. I just, and I know that would frustrate Rachel, which is
all right. Who Indiana Downs, Rachel? Who do you like here?
Indiana Grand, Rachel. No,
what's the name of the ticket here, JD? I didn't even get to see the name of the.
You'll see it next time. I think Rachel really likes her Rachel's off-season something. Because
wait, what was Jim's? Okay,
we gotta wait. Sorry.
We were talking too much. We don't know. You can't just tell us what Jim's was.
Well, yeah, I just put it up.
3 more races.
I just put it up. 4 related baseball. So
I like that. I really like that.
Nice job.
And mine's Rachel's off season something because I'm off season. And I like being able to handicap other tracks, honestly. But I'm like you. I know all those little things. It's so cool, Jim, to hear you say all those idiosyncrasies. I've only been at Indiana Grand in Indiana racing since I graduated college, since I was 21. I mean, I've been only Indiana racing, and I've like challenged myself the last few years to really try to do it and stuff. And it's hard. It's hard when you don't know it. But I spread in this race, and I feel like an idiot. I spread, and then I went down. And then the 8th race I really liked. I had to add a couple just for the name. We'll get to that later. But I kind of like the 2 inside horses, and I thought it was pretty interesting. One of the favorites ran on turf at Indiana Grand. I went 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. And granted, we are on dirt, but I mean, lost the whip, had a bunch of trouble in that race at Indiana. And that was Mind Trap, who I put on top over the 8. But I saw this one as there were maybe some options to go a few different ways. So I went 1, 2, and 3. And I think Power Cry is one that has a little bit of a chance dropping in class. Ran last time out on turf. And this is another one that has, you know, turf to dirt. Who knows what's going to happen, but we're trying to hit a ticket. I found throw some in that don't really make sense every once in a while, and you might get lucky.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that strategy, and we're giving you different angles here because you'll see my ticket construction is very interesting for this pick 4 sequence as we head to race 7, 62.5 claiming, and that's 6,250. 3-year-olds and up, non-winners of 3 lifetime, and obviously a whole bunch of other conditions that you should definitely read before you handicap any race.
Don't read too much of them. Don't worry about it.
6 furlongs on the dirt, and we've got a field of 12 here with 2 also eligibles. Your favorite is going to be the 5 Andrews Boogie Morning Line 5-2 again for Broberg, and this time you see Shannon Uski getting the call as we head to the last 2 horses, and then the 2 also eligibles that can draw into this 7th race at Hawthorne. And I'm going to lead off again here because I've got an opinion on it, and then but I actually kind of want to talk about 2 horses here and kind of pick your brain a little bit, Jim.
Okay.
So I'm really curious about, and these are 2 of the longer shots on the board, the 1 and the 8.
Yeah.
So with 8 Be Salty, you look at 2 wins lifetime. They're both at Fairmont, and has not cleared the first level Illinois bred allowance. So, you know, you've got a $3,000 purse is something that this horse can run for, but is instead running for a $9,000 purse. And the same thing exists with the 1. Are you guys getting with Barnes the fact that to get these horses races, they're really having to find spots for them? Because, you know, both of them are eligible for this, you know, first level allowance, which has a pretty juicy purse on it.
Yeah, they are. And the one thing that you run into with a lot of the first level allowances, especially for Illinois breds, is you run into some of those Scott Becker runners that come through. And we had one the other day that won at 1-9. So you almost figure, okay, am I running for second money in those spots? These are the type of horses, though, that if they win this level, they probably do show up in that allowance later on in the year. We'll start with Bumpity Bump Up, because here again is a little bit of an interesting note. Look at where the horse is working out. If you have the workouts at the bottom there.
Yeah.
DUQ. That's the DuQuoin Fairgrounds. Now, the DuQuoin Fairgrounds are about 5 hours south of Hawthorne. This is where we run one of our summer harness meets. And DuQuoin still has harness horses there. So what they do is the inside part of the track is the harness track. The far outside, they put dirt on the outside wall. And this is where these horses work. So you see all these horses working at DuQuoin. They're working around the far outside loop of the DuQuoin racetrack there, and then getting in the van and coming up to Hawthorne to run. So a horse like Bumpity Bump Up, it's interesting. Dwayne Wells, the trainer, is actually our outrider for all the harness races there. He's a guy that he's won some races at Belterra in the past. That's a horse that actually ran pretty well, I thought, last time out. It doesn't look like it on paper, finishing 7th, but had the 10 hole, was in the race a little bit more early on than I would have expected, and then just gave way late. Be Salty from the barn of Steve Manley. This was an interesting horse, too, because here's the thing. The horse was racing at Fairmont Park and then had the option to show up at Hawthorne and race, but instead went to Indiana Grand and raced in that last out. So that was a little surprising for me, because you've had some of the different options for where this horse could run. And I don't know anything really about the horses that were in that race, but Steve Manley wins more than his share of races at Hawthorne, too. A very good horseman, but I was a little surprised because he came off the layoff, had options in Illinois. He still went to Indiana Grand. But again, he's also training down at Fairmount Park. So Fairmount Park to Indiana Grand and Fairmount Park to Hawthorne is a very similar distance wise. So he probably just found what he felt what the horse was ready for and went to the closest track.
Yeah, so I really appreciate that, Jim, because those are two things when, you know, even somebody that doesn't follow the circuit very closely, I just look at eligibility when I'm looking at horses with minimum wins here and see if there's other spots to place it and try to figure it out. So, you know, sometimes there's more into it and sometimes it's just finding a spot where the horse can win. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to single again here, and I'm going to single the 2 Road Game. And this is the I went crazy deep on Road Game. And obviously you look last out, you know, lost by a half, really had some trouble in the lane, had to angle out for racing room. You know, you can make a ton of excuses here, but I'm just interested in, I wanted to go back. The last win this horse had on the board was a May 25th race that I actually kind of remembered at Churchill Downs. And what amazes me about this race, and the horse earned a 102 time form US speed figure on this race, is you want to look at sometimes, you know, next out winners and look at how competitive a race is. To find another horse that's won in this race, you have to go to the 7th place finisher in that race, which was Wave Runner. That's won back twice at Indiana Grand and Remington in 3 starts. The 8th place runner in that race, Direct Approach, has won 3 times at Indiana Grand, 2 on turf, 1 on dirt. And then the 10th place horse, which was actually the favorite in the race, Escadrella's Dream, has won twice at Indiana Grand since on, you know, at actually, you know, higher levels than the 6,500 claiming. So very interesting sometimes when you look at a race and you see, hey, there is some hidden class here that these horses came back and ran really well at other tracks. And this horse kind of stuck at Churchill for one more and then made the loop Indiana Grand, Arlington Park. And then obviously that last out, very strong effort at Hawthorne. I think based on the pace dynamic of this race, I do think Be Salty is probably the horse that's going to want the lead here. And if Road Game can just cinch up next and try to find a better trip than last time with Perez on board, I do think Road Game is a very strong single here. 4-1 on the morning line. Honestly, I'd take, you know, 5-2, anything 5-2 or, you know, in that park is still a major win bet for me in this spot for the horse.
Hey, Rachel, I think JD's knocking my line there.
I think he is. That's what I was just thinking. I mean, wow.
I'm not knocking the line. If I was picking out a 10-1 shot that I said was going to be 2-1, that's knocking your line, Jim.
Hey,
I'm saying 4-1 is a good in a race with this many horses. I think 4-1 is a great line on Road Game. I'm not knocking.
You know what? I think that's the most thankless job in racing. I've done the morning line.
Oh my God, I don't know how you guys do it.
And it's one of those things. I am a first impression line maker. So I go through, I don't take hour upon hour upon hour to do the line. And I'm going to miss horses here and there. I'll knock out a 9-race card in 40 minutes. So I go through first impression line making. If I make a line and it adds up, I go to the next race. So
I think that's almost smarter, because I feel like when you overthink things is when you mess things up,
yeah.
Especially with the line. Because if you just look at it and you like who you like and it works, then just go with it, because that's when you get ones that you think, oh, well, you know, right. Classier connections, let's move them up or whatever. I like the 2. I almost singled, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with Tornado Boy, 20-1 here out of nowhere. Don't judge me. A couple seconds at the distance, dropping down from 1 mile and a 70 here to 6 furlongs. And, you know, I totally agree about Road Game. Speed last race was 81s. Nobody's numbers recent-wise come close. Was beaten last time out by a horse that came out to win. But if you look back to Arlington, now granted, best numbers have been on you know, Polly, but has ran close to. I do Brisnet numbers, okay, so whatever. And that's what I liked. The 3, I thought maybe at a pretty big long shot against maybe a favorite could potentially pull off an upset. So I went 2-3 there.
Here's the thing I love. You got time form numbers. You got Brisnet numbers. You have people that swear by the form. I don't look at any of that crap.
You don't?
No. I make my own trip notes. So I call a lot of charts. I make trip notes on every race. If you look back on my selections, I'll post my selections And when that day is over, in place of the selections, I post my trip notes for that day's races so people can see kind of what I saw too. I just kind of go off what I see on paper, and that if I look at a race and I see a field of 10 and I see one speed, my race is over. I pick that speed horse and pick my second and third choices to go on to the next race. I don't look too deep into it. That being said, looking at this race, here's the thing about Road Game, and it hurts a little bit, JD, for the pick 4. Look at Road Game's last race. Warriors Gem won. Look at the horse who finished third in that race. Horse that finished third in that race is Dino. Dino's the horse that's racing in race 6 on this pick 4 sequence. So that is a key race. So Road Game's coming out of a key race. This is a horse that definitely should be a factor. Andrews Boogie is a horse that I used, again, only because I think this is a horse that could be a decent threat. The race 2 back was really good. The race in that last out was one of those weird days where we had a very much speed-biased racetrack. The winner of that race was a horse by the name of Enzo Express, who the jock quarter-horsed out of the gate and opened up by 4 lengths and just ran everybody into submission. So I almost put a line through that race. Go back to the race 2 back and use that. And then the horse that I used at a price was the 7 horse here, Maximus Image. Javier Tavares is riding this one for trainer Joel Zdowitz. This was a horse that in that last out put blinkers on. And with the first-time blinkers, brutal start. And what I love, though, is after the bad start, the jock didn't freak out and hustle. You see it so many times. Bad break. You have the blinkers on. Oh, my God, I got to get into the mix. They run the horse up there, and the horse is in contention till the quarter pole, and then it's done. This horse, bad break, and the jock just let the horse settle into stride. And then this horse was full of run late, came flying to finish third. So I just think a little bit better break. I think the horse gets into the mix, should be able to run on late. So I did go 3 deep in there, only for the fact that I didn't go real deep in the first leg. And I know JD picked like the entire field in race number 8. So I didn't. So because of that, I can only go 3 deep in here. So my pick 4 related baseball pun is 3x3 for the first 2 legs, guys.
All right, we're going to move on to race number 8, which is an Illinois bred allowance condition for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, going 6 furlongs on dirt. And we've got a field of 10. You see everybody in the field here on this one sheet here. We've got 2 for Hugo Rodriguez, the 2 outside runners, and Scott Becker will have the favorite in Jolie Runner with Victor Santiago aboard the 3 morning line, 3-1 there. And Jim kind of spoiled it, and I think you guys figured it out from my ticket construction. We're going with the all button of glory here because sometimes you have to admit in life when you have no clue on a race, and guys, I have no place where to begin. When I'm looking at Placati as potential lone speed at 31 on the morning line as a chance to win this race first above, because I want to find the speed first, I'm like, okay, if this is 30-1 and I trust Jim's morning line, I'm laughing. I was waiting for the laugh track there, Jim.
Wait, my friend.
So yeah, I don't know. It could be Jolie Ruler here at 3-1, coming off of the second place in this allowance condition at 22-1. Obviously, that was the day to bet. Actually, that was a win because Raggedy Doll Peach got DQ'd. So yeah, you know, that's my thoughts. Is I have no thoughts on this race. So
Jim, can I ask you a question about Jolie Ruler's DQ?
Yes.
Hit me with what happened. Ducked at the break. So just like totally went in. And
moved up to first. Yeah, the horse actually got moved up to first. So here's what happened. So Jolie Ruler ducked at the break, raced a little bit greenly early on, then rushed up to the lead. So you had Jolie Ruler out there. The other one was Awesome Indra. So these were 2 Scott Becker horses. So they were in the mix. So you had Jolie Ruler in one spot, and then you had Awesome Indra in the other. And tucked in just behind was Raggedy Doll Peach. And Raggedy Doll Peach was along the rail behind these horses. And Raggedy Doll Peach was the best horse in the race. Waited, got about 70 yards away from the wire, and the jock had no option. It was Francisco Arrieta riding. He basically bulled his way out. So he just pushed the one horse out, Awesome Indra, and then got out and then went on by. But he was the best horse, probably a length or 2 best. But Jolie Ruler still ran well. But it's one of those, and I'll always go out there on Twitter too if there's an inquiry or an objection, and I'll say here's what I think, and then I'll say after if I agree or not. But I agreed 100% with the stewards on this one.
Yeah, and
So
I
she was
just
the best
watched
in the
it.
race.
Yeah. All right. So here, before I get to my picks, and again, just one of the quirks of Hawthorne, JD, just so you know. So you go back looking at this race, because I know you mentioned Placati in here. For the way the rules are for the racing office in Illinois, and I don't know how they are in Indiana or other racetracks, at 11 a.m. in the morning on an entry day, an allowance race, a starter allowance race, or an optional claiming allowance, if they have 6 in there, the race has to go. You have to put a circle on it. All right. So we have uncoupled entries too. So you'll see Scott Becker will throw 2 in a race to make sure a race goes, or somebody else to make sure a race goes. So you mentioned Placati in there. Placati's trained by Hugo Rodriguez. All right. Hugo just claimed the 10 horse Get None out of its last race as well. Now, this Illinois bred allowance race, the last time it only went with 7 horses. So you lose the winner out of that race, which drops it to 6. There was the potential that you may lose another just for whatever reason. So I think that's the reason that you even have Placati in this race. It wouldn't surprise me completely if Placati were to scratch out of the race as a trainer scratch, because you can scratch as a trainer scratch with no excuse at all, down to 8 horses, only to make sure that Get None runs in the race. Because Get None's a horse that can show a ton of speed. Placati can show speed too, and I don't think Hugo Rodriguez wants to run 2 horses against one another, as Rachel's dogs are barking at her. But that
Platz.
was the reason.
He knows German. Platz.
There you go. Oh, yeah, nice. Good job with the plots there. So you have Get None is the horse that I did use. I thought Jolie Ruler ran well in their last out, but what I see in this race, because again, I mentioned earlier about these Illinois bred allowance races, you get a lot of horses coming up from condition claimers and that. Jolie Ruler belongs in here. Get None may belong, but I think these are the 2 horses that are going out there and kind of pushing one another on the lead, open up 3 or 4 in the rest of the field. One of them may suck back, and I think the other one runs on, so I just made sure I covered both of them in the sequence.
Nobody has Rachel got Steven. Is anybody going to talk about how my name is?
There you go. Rachel.
No, we're not gonna touch that at all.
Horse ran okay last time, Rach.
I literally
in a bad allowance race.
Yeah, I know. I'm not mad at Rachel got Steven purely on last few efforts or whatever, and especially at Hawthorne last time out, on dirt, 3rd, missed by 3 lengths. But I told JD I went ahead, since this isn't my home track and I'm not getting paid to do this. I decided to put Rachel got Steven in there because Rachel. Jolie was my first dog ever in my life that I bought myself and got myself. And then one of our dogs' name, I call it Prancy Pants. So I put in a couple of the ones that are the most likely winners, which you guys already talked about. And then I also added a couple hunch plays. So who knows? I could hit it on my whole thing today is put in horses that you like, maybe a couple just to go with it every once in a while.
Well, I think based on the last races and the trip for Rachel got Steven, if you like Rachel got Steven, you have to include Prancy Pants, because they're kind of coupled together. They're finishing 2nd and 3rd in the same thing. So I could actually make a horse racing argument for that as well, to go 40, there, 2, 3, 7, 10.
You're just going to hit the all bar. Don't worry about that. You survived to that race. You're fine.
Yeah, I'm good. And if you thought I did not have a clue in race 8, that trend may continue in race 9 to spoil it a little bit here, as we got maiden claimers, $6,250, 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. Again, going 6 furlongs on the dirt, and you've got kind of a mixture of some lightly raced horses and some horses that have seen the starting gate a time or 2 here as we move to page 2, just to get one horse in here, Sophia's Dawn. And I wanted to make sure Sophia's Dawn had her own spotlight page as a Missouri bred.
And you should.
Ooh.
It's very interesting.
Use that horse.
And I do use that horse along with almost every other horse in the field. We're going 7 deep here. 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. That will bring my ticket total to $35. I think really the most interesting horse to me in this race that I want to touch on is Farazano Woman. And I think the note last time out at Fairmount Park, fractious gait showed little. it's not one of the, if you watch back the replay, it's not the most helpful TrackMan comment, because this horse was fractious in the gate, had legs up in the air, and then kind of just sat there at the gate. Everybody else left. And then this horse still gave him a little bit of time, probably spotted the field 15 lengths, 20 lengths. I looked back at, and I really don't know how this horse was even declared a starter, because the assistant starter seemed to have a hold as well. So it was a very interesting race. And I don't think I went back and watched the June 23rd effort. I don't think it was that bad. It was a speed and fade effort. And there's been some horses in there that have come back and done well, and Pretty Getta won by 11 1/4 that day, obviously as a freak at a similar condition at Fairmont. So Verrazano Woman, lightly raced 3-year-old filly in this spot. I'm willing to give a chance, because there are some very interesting horses. And the most interesting horse, I think, is the 6-year-old mare inside, Gift of Chance, who just started her racing career last month. So we'll see what she can do starting at Prairie Meadows at Maine Specialweight Company, and then coming over to Hawthorne.
It's such a beautiful ticket there. Single, the all button of glory, and then the almost all, which is awesome, JD.
It's a way of constructing tickets. I'm not necessarily saying it's a good way of constructing tickets, but what we do here is I've got 2 strong opinions on the card. I'm going to single both of them. If they come through, I've got coverage for any wackiness that could occur, and I'm predicting wackiness, basically. If no wackiness occurs, this ticket will cover what I put in for it, and we're fine. We go and live to play another day.
Well, and before Rachel gives her picks, here's the one beautiful thing about Hawthorne in this fall meet. Because of the size of the fields, even if you go favorite, you're going to more than cover your ticket. You'll at least double your investment, just because people have to spread for these reasons, and because there's so much uncertainty in a lot of the horses in the sequences. So don't be afraid to play it exactly how you did. If you get through those first 2 legs, you're going to get a nice return. So I like the way you play it. But before I talked about the race, Rach, who do you have here? Because I know you love this race so much.
It's so funny you would tee me up for that, Jim, because I have so many opinions in this race. It's insane. It's a maiden claiming 6,250. I have no clue what to do here. As you can tell, I went with the 2 and the 7, which are the most obvious choices, if you can call them obvious choices, in the entire sequence. If I wouldn't have had my whole plan of playing, some names and some hunch plays and some long shots, I would have done exactly what JD would have done. I would have totally spread in here. But I thought, you know what? I think maybe the 2 chalks would have could probably pull it off. I don't know. I don't know. I told you I don't know. You're the surgeon. Tell us what you think.
I love how you don't know, because I used 2 of those horses.
You did?
Oh yeah. And here's the thing about it. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been at Hawthorne for 23 years. So I've learned a few things in my time. The one thing that I found, especially with maidens and especially with bad maidens, the best way to win races is just get out on the front and go all the way around. You avoid traffic, you avoid issues. These horses don't win for a reason. So because of that, it makes the horse like Tally Up the 7 very logical. Isaiah Wiseman, a guy who Rachel saw riding throughout the course of the summer at Indiana Grand, he's good. He is good.
He's sneaky good.
Yeah, he rides confidently. He doesn't ride like a bug. He doesn't steady all the time. He puts himself in a good spot. He gives you a good effort every time out. He's on a horse that ran well in that last out with the addition of blinkers. So Tally Up figures. All right, the 2 April's Gem. I liked this horse 2 starts back when the horse was 14-1 and ran second.
It was on the slop, though, is what I was concerned about.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Bobby Tutu, who won that race, came back and just won on Sunday at Hawthorne. So you don't see the little italics winners there, because we drew this race on Sunday. So Bobby Tutu came back and won rather impressively. So that gives a little bit of a nod to April's Gem to run a little bit better. I think that's
the first and third place finisher from that race came back to win. Actually, yeah. I do have that from my Brisnet pages.
Yep, and she's honorable. Came back and showed speed and won in that next start out too. So
look at me with opinions.
Yeah, you're on the right horses. Here's the other one that I threw in there. and this is the weirdest thing about these bottom level maidens too. When a horse runs a little bit at a price, you're not going to see that price in the next start out. But the 11 Sophia's Dawn was 52-1 at this level in that last out. And the horse chased in there, and the winner of that race was Promises Kept. Promises Kept was a horse that opened up the lead early on by like 4 or 5 and kept going late. Sophia's Dawn actually hung in there, I thought, rather well. But what I noticed was in the stretch, the horse got past and then actually fought back to finish 4th. So at least you showed a little bit of heart in that race. And that's one thing that I kind of liked, is seeing that improvement, seeing a little bit of a heart, and seeing a little bit more speed out of the horse. So I threw the 11 horse in there because I wanted to keep it under, what did we say, 36, 50 bucks, whatever JD told us. I said I had some money to spare. I could throw another horse in there. So I threw the 11 Sophia's Dawn in there as well. And that's kind of it for me. I mean, a couple of prices. Sophia's Dawn, yeah, the 7 horse in the second leg there, who I thought could be a little bit of a factor. Maximus Image. If you get one of those prices, you're looking at a $300-400 pick for. If not, like we mentioned, if you're very chalky, you're still looking at somewhere between 60 and 100 bucks. So it's not too bad of a return. It's only a 15% takeout too. So that's kind of the beautiful thing about it all, is a lot of the money goes back to the bettors. But it's a good sequence with some bad races in there, but that kind of makes it fun too.
That's right.
Yeah, pretty much full fields, and we've got a race with a couple also eligibles as well. So we will see a lot of horses reach the starting gate, and that's fun with these sequences. As you know, it's Thanksgiving. We're enjoying our company. I'm going to flash all of the tickets up quickly here. My ridiculous $35 ticket. Nice. 7-2 all 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. Rachel 5 deep in the first 1, 2, 3, 7, 8 with 2, 3 with 2, 3, 7, 10 with 2, 7. And then Jim's ticket 2, 7, 8, 2, 5, 7, 3, 10, 2, 7, 11. For the first time in this show's history, I wanted to let you guys know we can all hit our tickets. And that never happens on this show. Now, mind you, it never happens because we cover a lot of Australian races where there's 20 horses. And if you wanted to cover that many horses, you'd spend $600. So, but that is kind of a cool thing. So final thoughts. Normally this is our segment where, we go around the horn and you can talk about anything. But Jim, I wanted to ask you about something very specific, and that you hinted at it earlier, but following a certain best analyst vote that came out, I believe this is your second straight year of doing this. You have kind of put your own consolation bracket together. Let's talk a little bit about where this idea came from, and then catch everybody up on what's happened with it this year.
So being in the industry for a long time and getting to know everybody, one thing, I am very sarcastic. I like to have fun. I tell people all the time I get paid to go to races, but at the same time, I have an insane amount of respect for the different analysts across the industry, because what people don't understand is we have to pick every race of every single day. There may be days, there may be weeks where I say I wouldn't bet a single one of these races, but you're going to pick those races every race, every single day. And you want to give a good opinion, you want to give a good showing for your racetrack, a good understanding for who and why they should bet on these horses. So, and then you see people that we talk about that may go on under whatever their name is on Twitter and blast you and say that pick stinks, or tell you, oh my gosh, you're horrible, or your line stinks, or whatever. But you know what? Kudos to these people, because here's the thing about it. What they don't realize is the track gets their money off the top. So we want people to win. I would much rather give information that's going to lead to somebody winning races. So I love all of the analysts in this industry, and everybody. I mean, you get quirky analysts, you get people that do goofy stuff. I mean, I've worn Halloween masks and that on Halloween. I've dressed up as Santa before. Who cares? But I want people to watch the signal. But at the same time, you see different polls that come out, and it's so many different things that come out. Best racing analyst, best race of the year, this, that, and the other thing. And there's always a poll that comes out every year for the fan voting on best racing analysts. And there's great analysts on there, people that do wonderful jobs, and people that I respect very highly in the industry. But there's so many people that I see in the industry, and you talk about the Rachel McLaughlins of the world. You talk about the Nancy Holthuses. I mean, the people that I'm seeing at Charlestown, at Mountain Air, at these tracks that are not Churchill Downs, are not Gulfstream, are not Naira, that do an incredible job, that don't maybe necessarily get the recognition that some others do. So I always try to do it in a fun way. where I'll incorporate people into my consolation bracket, old MTV claymation celebrity deathmatch style voting to find the best racing analysts on a consolation end. And then I incorporate into it that I tell you, I'm going to give you kudos on Hawthorne closed circuit TV, and I'm going to present you a trophy of a stakes race that wasn't contested at Hawthorne because it didn't fill, and I have the trophies. So I have my trophy ready for Rachel from the Peach of It handicap, which wasn't run 2 years ago. She has saved the closed circuit TV that I talked about, her winning the award. But I like to recognize people who I do think do a great job. So this year I opened it up even more with the voting to the fans. And it was cool to see. I mean, I brought in Ron Nicoletti, who does an awesome job at Gulfstream Park, and he had a blast with it. Zoe Cadman, who I got to watch ride at Hawthorne and in Illinois, she does an awesome job out on the East Coast. I got to have my friends. So Rachel's going to be in there. Nancy's going to be in there. Mike Joyce, who's an Illinois guy who I always mess with. But like Christina Blacker, I mean, come on, this woman will do the Keeneland sale, will present an Eclipse Award, will cover the Breeders' Cup, and cover.
She has 3 kids.
And yes, and she's an awesome mom. And she doesn't get mentioned where she, I feel, is heads and tails above maybe some others that are in some other polls. But she had a good time with it too. And that's the thing that I love, is people have a good time with it. People don't have huge egos. We just want to have fun. We want to present it out there. So that's what I did. Went through the Twitter voting. Brian Aragoni from Canterbury Park, another great smaller racetrack that does an excellent job, was the one who actually won. I know he rallied the troops and rallied his friends, and that's what it's about. I don't care. We'll have a blast. So I was so happy for that. It's always a good time. And of course, I went to present Rachel with the trophy this year. It's the one damn day she misses at Indiana Grant. So great, huh?
But nobody's ever going to take the first one. So, I mean, no. I'm always going to have that. I'm always going to have that. And I'm never going to let it go. And I literally recorded that. I will never forget. It was winter. Nobody was in the office. I get the whole placing judges, the Equibase callers, everybody's gone. I got the whole thing. And I'm literally recording on the TV, like, here he comes. I had like 4 videos before. I didn't know. I was like, okay, there's prices. Okay, there's will play. My video's coming up. And I'm sitting there and I have that in favorites. I could bring that up right now and play it for you guys. I got a shout out from Jim Miller. I won I would rather win that one than any other one. That's the most fun one. We all have jokes and joke around, and kudos to you, Jim, for coming up with that. You are so smart.
Oh, thank you. We got to have fun with that. All right, JD, and here's one that just for you, for my final thoughts, I guess, because I got to give a shout out because we've talked about it time and again. Rachel sees it and she knows it, but I have a lovely name for Nancy, which we reference each other to. I'm sure, have you seen it, JD?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Okay. So we call each other Jackass. So when you see it on Twitter, it's not that we're trying to pick on one another, but this is how long we've known one another, is that you go back again to the MTV days, and there was that show Jackass. And we both have the stupidest sense of humor. So we both used to watch that show religiously. Johnny Knoxville and Steve Owen. All of the stupidity that went beyond that. So I started calling her Jackass many moons ago. She calls me that. Her mom calls me that. Her dad has called me that. Rachel refers me that. So if you see it on Twitter that I'm getting called a Jackass, it's actually a term of endearment. So that is one of those things. But that's how she's stored in my phone. That's just how it's.
Yeah, you are too.
So so when you see the Jackass terminology, it's a term of endearment more than anything else.
Yeah, I'll use my last thought, Jim, to say something to Rachel, and that is that I do apologize for all those wrestling GIFs that you end up getting tagged in. I'm not saying that it's going to stop.
You're one of those.
I'm not going to necessarily stop, but I wanted to apologize.
I just realized you are in on that crap. In your original message, you said it, and I completely forgot about it because I was like, "Yay, Jim! Podcast is gonna be so fun." Have you seen this, Jim?
No.
Oh my God, Bill Downs, that boy, he knows what he does on purpose because he knows I manage the social media. He will literally wait until at night when he knows I'm not, on it anymore. and he starts a random out of nowhere, and like you can go back and look, it's like a wrestling thought, and then it's like, but racing Rachel wouldn't know it, or some random thing just to tag me in it. And I wake up in the morning and I have 67,000 notifications to go about on WWE wrestling that goes, I know the only sport I know absolutely nothing about, not one iota, goes straight over my head, and I'm literally reading it as gibberish. And these guys like JD and Champagne think it's hilarious to put gifs of sweaty men in tights on my Twitter feed. That's what they do to torture me, and they think it's hilarious.
JD, just so you know, if it makes you feel any better, all right, I've met the Big Show in an airport before, and my daughter thinks Roman Reigns is the most gorgeous man on the face of the earth. And Rachel's all mad now.
What, are you speaking English? I don't know what you're saying. I don't know who these people are.
I have a 13-year-old son. Come on. Of course.
I remember Goldberg. I remember Goldberg. I remember The Rock. I remember the old school ones because I have a little brother, so we used to watch it all the time. But now I know nothing. Nothing.
Yep. My favorite, Rachel, is the one day you decided to take video of your timeline of you scrolling through it, of doing a screen capture. That was great. Yeah,
I did that for Bill just to amuse him, bastard.
I'm pretty sure Bill escapes down to Florida just to get away from you. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh, no. Let me be very clear. Megan and I, his girlfriend, we fight over who has to take him. When my time is up, Megan gets him, and when her time is up in the winter, I get him. It is not him fight. No, he gets taken by Megan. Thank God. I would fight for Billy. I love him. I love my job, and I love hanging out with you guys. This was a lot of fun.
She loves everybody, JD.
Yeah. So we've got I have to, if I was a better prepared host and we weren't just sitting here drinking beer, although I did make a lot of graphics. So I mean there's that.
Super prepared, and I love the graphics, I will say.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of guests lined up for the rest of the year, and Bill Downs is one of them. We'll have Pete Aiello on at some point as well here in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll send everybody off to Christmas. And there's somebody I'm forgetting, but I apologize in advance.
They're not going to be as fun as us, so don't worry about it.
Exactly. So really appreciate everybody tuning in and hopefully enjoying this on Thanksgiving and being thankful for your family and cracking open a beer and being safe. And considerate to everybody around you and social distancing and all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. And until next time, where Andrew will return and this show may or may not be less fun. JD Fox signing off. Take care, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Fellow babies, and now it's time to go to our live remote man on the scene at the Pinedale Shopping Mall for the big WKRP turkey giveaway. So take it away, Les Nessman.
This is Les Nessman, your man on the scene here at the Pinedale Shopping Center where the excitement is mounting. We're here to witness the big WKRP turkey Thanksgiving giveaway.
Hey, you got permission to be out here?
What?
You're blocking my store here, buddy.
Don't you know who I am?
Huh?
I'm Les Nessman. I won the Buckeye News Hawk Award last year.
Good for you, Buckeye. Now get out of my doorway.
I'm sorry. Creep.
So far, so good, huh?
I'm here with hundreds of people who have gathered to witness what has been described as perhaps the greatest turkey event in Thanksgiving Day history. All we know for sure is
that in a very few moments there are going to be a lot of happy people out here. Now the crowd is... The crowd is curious, but well behaved. And I think I hear something now. The crowd is moving out into the parking area. And, oh yes, I can see it now. It's a helicopter. And it's coming this way.
A helicopter?
It's flying something behind it. I can't quite make it out. It's a large banner. And it says, Happy Thanksgiving. From W.
K.
sight, ladies and gentlemen, what a sight. The copter seems to be circling the parking area now. I guess it's looking for a place to land. No, something just came out of the back of the helicopter. It's a dark object, perhaps a skydiver, plummeting to the earth from only 2,000 feet into the air. The second to the third. There's no parachutes yet.
Those can't be skydivers. I can't tell just yet what they are, but... Oh, my God, they're turkeys! Oh, Johnny, can you get this? Oh, they're crashing to the earth right in front of our eyes! One just went through the windshield of a parked car! Johnny, this is terrible. The
Cars running around, pushing each other. Oh, my goodness! Oh, the humanity! Oh, people are running about. The turkeys are hitting the ground like sacks of wet cement. See, folks, I don't know how much longer the crowd is running for their lives. I think I'm going to step inside. I can't stay out here and watch this any longer. No, I can't go in there.
Children are searching for their mothers, and not since the Hindenburg tragedy has there been anything like this. I don't know how much longer I can hold my position here, Johnny. The crowd...
Les, are you there? Les isn't there. Thanks for that on-the-spot report, Les. For those of you who just tuned in, the Pinedale Shopping Mall has just been bombed with live turkey. Film at 11.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.